Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Rambling Through Everyday Life. This is such a fun episode, Angela. I am personally so very thrilled to have our guest with us today. And she's sitting over here sweating buckets. But we are assuring her and everyone that it's just a conversation. It's going to be fun, right?
It is going to be so much fun. She is one of our favorite people. She is part of a legendary trio with you, Fran and Christy. I always feel like I'm just like the little cheerleader going, yay, y'all are amazing. And she's here with us.
Yes, yes. Everybody hear the applause in the background. Robyn Newman is with us today for this episode. This is episode number 99. We were joking before we hit record that this is not the 100th episode, but it's 99, and that's still significant, Robyn. Okay, we're so glad you're here. This is what I want us to do, okay? Because honestly, y'all, and a lot of you all are not going to know Robyn as we have this conversation. So this is why we have her on the podcast. And also, if you do know her, and many of you will, then the fun of this is that you're going to be encouraged, you're going to be inspired, you're going to just feel like, I can do anything. So before we dive into all things, I just want people to know this about you, Robyn, okay? And then we're going to dive into a little bit of who Robyn is and these wonderful gifts that the Lord has given her. So I don't know, X years ago, I don't remember the time frame, when I was new to church, the Lord was so kind. Don't you love it when the Lord is so kind to give you people in your life that you didn't know you needed?
Right. Yeah.
And in that moment too, we've said before too, that it's like, because He knows what's coming. We don't know what's coming. We just think, oh, look, I've got a new friend. Isn't she precious? And y'all, you also need to know that Robyn is every bit of, how tall are you, Robyn?
4'11" when I have my big girl shoes on.
So she's fun size.
Like I'm shrinking. I'm getting old, so I'm shrinking.
She's a tiny little precious thing. And so you just think this is just so fun and precious. And thank you, Lord, for this friend. But the Lord, heaven had to have applauded and cheered when our lives collided, because He knew what was coming and just how fun and good it was going to be. Yes, Angela.
Can I say something that I forgot about until right now, talking about the Lord and how good He is?
Yes.
Do you know that I met Robyn in 1992?
What?
Yes.
I was on Chrysalis walk number 6.
Oh my gosh.
And now they're probably in the 500s. There's no telling how many Chrysalis walks. The Robyn sang at that Chrysalis. She was a table leader. She gave a talk, and I thought, this is the coolest person I've ever heard from in my whole entire. She had no clue who I was.
I had no idea.
Well, I was just a little nobody, just like in awe of this insanely talented person. And she just, like, her name stuck in my brain. And then years later, when I met y'all, I was like, oh, I know her.
I know her.
Isn't that fun?
Did you ask her for her autograph?
Robyn, may I have your autograph? I'm going to ask her right now.
Absolutely not.
So it's just, whenever you were saying that about how the Lord just pulls us together, I thought, oh, wait.
Yes.
I also have a story.
Oh, see, I think it's so beautiful. And so whenever that was, however many years ago, Robyn, when the Lord brought our friendship together, this is what's also so fun. You know how immediately you know, like, oh, I love her. We're so connected. This is so great. But hold up a minute. She is gifted completely different than I am. But I love that. And let's just preface this entire conversation by saying, especially to the female audience that loves to feel insecure and compare themselves to others, that this is the beauty of the body of Christ.
Yes.
Right.
Everybody is gifted differently. Robyn's got multiple gifts. She can sing like nobody's business. You were a labor and delivery nurse for 1,000 years, and no telling how many people you have helped birth babies. You are a wife. You are the mom to 2 fabulous daughters that I could cry over, that I love so much. This is where our lives became connected. The girl is the craftiest, the most creative. Like literally you could say, look at that house. That is the best house in all the land. And Robyn says, well, let's just build it. And you're like, well, I don't want to build it. And so I love that about you, Robyn. Welcome to the show. We are so happy to have you with us today. Tell us what it is you're doing now with your life. You're no longer labor and delivery. And then let's dive right into this. Where does all this creative stuff come from? Yes.
All right. Well, Thank y'all so much for having me. It's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah. So, what am I doing in my life now?
Okay, hold on. You just planned the ultimate wedding of all time.
Yeah, she did.
Oh my gosh.
And
it
I've
was
seen a lot of
so much
weddings.
fun.
You are the wedding queen.
Well, I do it again.
Miss
I
Crafty.
do it again with somebody else's money.
Yeah. There you go. And we're going to get to that because there's a whole slew of people that need to know, how do I do a budget-friendly wedding and all the things. Okay. We're going to get to that. What are you doing? Who are you, Robyn Newman?
Are we? Okay. So, So I am a nurse by trade. I'm married to Paul Newman.
The Paul Newman?
The Paul Newman, the brunette, brown-eyed Paul Newman.
From Jackson, Tennessee.
From Jackson, Tennessee. And anyway, so I was a labor and delivery nurse for 20 years. I've been a nurse for 30 years. 20 of that was labor and delivery, and just loved every single minute of it. It was just an amazing, amazing gift that I feel like the Lord gave me just to be able to do that. I mean, who gets to do that, right?
I bet there's women listening thinking, Robyn was there when my baby was born.
For sure.
There will be a lot of those.
I wish I had kept a list of especially people I knew, because I do forget.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you were there when they were born. I'm like, oh, yeah, I was
Of course
there.
I remember that.
Because I do. But lots and lots of, there's no telling the number. And so about 3 years ago, I guess, was time for a little bit slower pace. You know, I'm getting older, and 12-hour shifts don't do quite as well. And just the stress level and all. And so it was just a good time. My kids were grown. They were out of school, just for me to make a change. So now.
Yeah, listen, let's just pause for a second. Because we go from birthing babies to what, Robyn?
Colonoscopies.
Wow.
So I've been with all my friends while they've had their babies, and now they're 50. And so I'm going to be with all my friends now when they have their colonoscopies.
That is in our future. And
it's
I don't
coming.
know
It's
that
nothing.
Okay, that's what I needed. That is what I
It's
needed to hear. Okay.
If you have questions about colonoscopy, send us a direct message and we'll give you Robyn's cell number.
There's a lot of anxiety around that word.
There is. Well, when I was in the labor room, the last 4 years of the labor room, I primarily circulated C-sections. So that's what I did Monday through Friday. So I grew to have a love for procedure nursing. It kind of took me away from the bedside per se in a little bit, but allowed me to do that. And so it was just a different kind. And so I then had an opportunity the GI lab that's what it is. It's just procedure nursing. And so it's been a good change.
Yeah, listen, if you want to call that a good change, that's great.
I'm glad there's people like Robyn, because if I was in charge of healthcare, oh my goodness.
If I was in charge of anything in the GI tract, I would be like, this is horrible. Where's the brown paper bag every single day? Okay. So the Lord has gifted you with nursing. So thankful for the medical community and all those that are committed and love it, because we all now know, I think since COVID, we're not going to talk about this, but I think since COVID, it has allowed us to have a deeper appreciation for healthcare in general, whether it's good, bad, whatever, wherever you are. It's just this deep appreciation for nurses. So
hard.
Thank you. Bravo to all the nurses. Okay. The other part, and this is why we have her here, that Robyn, this creative mind that you have, this ability to take what is not known and make it or mimic something that you saw and actually create and build it. Where does this come from? Tell us about your mom, your grandmother. Where does this come from? Because I'm telling you, I ain't got it.
Me either.
So as far back as I can remember, my mom and my grandmother, my mom and my mom's mom, they were just always, I mean, they could sew. Like, I'm not a great seamstress. Like, I can do straight lines and I can do some things, but I mean, they could sew. Like,
you have a sewing machine, Robyn.
But it's
I've never owned a sewing machine.
But I'm not like that. So they were amazing seamstresses. Like growing up, like my clothes. I mean, they made my clothes when I was little in pageants and plays and stuff like that. So they were amazing seamstress. They could both paint, and I don't mean paint like I'm gonna throw a flower on the canvas paint.
Right.
I mean, like I have hanging in my house, you know, like portraits, or not portraits, but paintings of different sceneries and things that so they could all do that. My grandmother, I like to say that she was DIYing before DIY was even a concept, because she would do that. You know, she'd have something in her house. She'd have the glue gun. She'd have the And let me say, I always thought that everybody just had a craft box.
I've never had a relative that did anything like what you've described.
Like until
This is
Fran,
fascinating.
until I met Fran, and I was like, "Well, just get your scissors or your paper cutter. Don't you have some paper?" And she was like,
What?
"No." And I'm like, "I guess I just thought
Mm-hmm.
everybody had that in their house.
It was
No,
your
ma'am.
normal.
It was my normal."
No,
and
ma'am.
so
I set that record straight real quick.
I was like, "Well, what about your scissors in your drawer where you keep all that?" And she was like, you don't have glue? You don't have any glitter? You don't have...
Listen,
Of course you have boys too.
I have, but it doesn't
But
matter.
still.
I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah.
So it was
mm-mm.
never something that I saw or that would have been cultivated in me. But y'all have heard me say this, and there are people listening that they're either completely resonating with Robyn, or they're like me,
Mhm.
and that back part of Hobby Lobby gives
Mhm.
me tremendous
Oh, yeah.
anxiety.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening back here, but
Mm-mm.
you tell me to go buy paint. I'm like, Robyn, please don't make me go buy paint.
I know. Yeah. So my mother sewed for the public.
Mm.
Gosh, I remember she made I grew up out south, and so I graduated from South Side. She made the hawk mascot
Good gosh.
outfit, like the hawk.
That's like serious.
1 year for junior high. Just lots of things. I was trying to think, and you and I may have talked about this the other day. I can remember the first big craft I did. Do you remember us talking about it?
What was it?
Okay, I remember it.
How old were you?
I
need
was in
some con-
third grade.
Okay, a baby.
I was in third grade, and we were studying Native America, and we had to make an adobe house.
Oh.
Now, Angela, that would cause us all to say, I'm not making one.
I would get some Play-Doh and give up
Yeah.
after 5 minutes.
I can't remember if
Mhm.
we had to make, everybody had to make an adobe house, or we just had to make something in relation to Native America. But
What size adobe house are we talking?
well, so I remember it specifically. And if you Google adobe houses, there's a picture of what looks like mine on there. It was 2-story, and we took boxes and we did boxes to look like square houses. We
I
glued them
cannot-
together.
Oh.
We used plaster of Paris and made it hard and painted it.
No,
And
ma'am.
it was like a 2-story.
No, ma'am.
And I got my picture in the yearbook with it
oh,
one
this-
year.
This
because,
is serious.
I don't know if they gave prizes, but anyway,
That
was the
deserves a
first-
prize.
It was. I wish I had it. Oh, I've kept
Do
a
you
lot of
think
things.
then that something was sparked? I really love this.
I mean, I think I've always had that. I mean, I've always loved just the whole, just
Yeah.
writing and drawing. I'm not a great artist,
Mm-hmm.
but I love art.
Right.
Construction paper, scissors, just I mean, just as long as I can. I don't really
Yeah.
ever remember a time when
Yeah.
I wasn't doing things like that.
Listen, I think that's phenomenal. And so let's we're going to go back in time for just a smidge, because here's what the Lord does, right? So this is what the Lord does. He does this with our gifts and our talents, and he pulls people together to come alongside one another to often serve the kingdom. And that goes back to the beginning of when we met and our other friend, Christy Treadway. A lot of you all know this, but what I want to just focus on for a smidge is that because the three of us came together, and no joke, when I tell this story, no joke, were we walking around a holiday?
It was at the USJ Holiday Mart.
The Holiday Mart, which is, it's all items you purchase.
Yes.
So it's no telling how many.
We didn't have any money, don't you remember?
Yeah.
Because we were doing
7.
the
We were
7
doing the
fast, and that
7.
month was money.
Mhm. So we
couldn't
couldn't spend any money, but we thought it was smart to go walk around and shop when we couldn't spend any money. And literally there was this Christmas tree, and I will find a picture and put the adobe house and this Christmas tree in our
Yes.
stories, because you've got to see it. But we're literally walking by. So you've got 3 girls with 3 very different gifts and talents. And our friendship is still kind of relatively new. And you and Christy have known each other for a long time, but I'm kind of new to the mix. And so we're walking around, and Robyn sees something, and we're just like, oh, that's so cute, but I'm not paying $85 for that Christmas tree made out of wood. And literally you said, oh, we can make that. But and I'm like, well, you can, I cannot. But what the Lord did was he took 3 people's individual gifts and talents, put us together, challenged one another, understood our role within the body. yeah, there were seasons of like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. And maybe I want her gift, but I don't have her gift. And some of that weird stuff that you just kind of have to naturally work out. And we were able to, believe it or not, make things, sell things, fund mission trips. It's the craziest thing. And so if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I don't have that gift. But I guess maybe the point is that if you feel like you're a Fran or you feel like you're a Robyn or you feel like you're a Christy or an Angela and you are like, I don't know, I feel like the Lord wants to do something. I guarantee you there's people positioned around you that he is strategically placing in your life. And it just takes one person to open up their mouth and say, I think we can make that. Absolutely. And that one sentence just sent us in a forward direction that nobody could have ever predicted. That yes, those of us that are terrified of Hobby Lobby, we got in there and did some things together for the kingdom of God. And it started with, essentially it started with you. And then that later became the Heart of Whimsy.
And we made those trees, don't you remember? We made them for each of us.
Yes.
Wow.
So I still put mine out every Christmas.
Every Christmas I put that tree out and we all signed the bottom of it. And it's just precious. But it began a journey of what the Lord was going to do in our lives. And he's not done. And that's not the point of this podcast. We'll have to come back another time and talk about all of that. But just the fact that we were able to do ministry with our own gifts and talents to benefit the kingdom of God is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I'm so thankful that you are the one in the group that just pushed us and sent us forward to do all of this, because if it would have been me, I'd have been like, we ain't making that, and like done, move on. Anyway, I love that. What do you want to say about anything you want to say about Heart of Whimsy and really just the fact that when we were doing this, we were not in the season of life that we are now. That was 10 years ago. We were in the thick of it.
Yeah. So, when we started More Than a Mission Trip, which is how we started, because it was more than a mission trip. And that's where we, my kids were in high school. They were knee deep in sports and extracurricular activities. I worked full time, probably more then than I do now. We all had busy, busy lives as mamas, as wives, as employees, and then had extra things on top of that, that we were committed to outside of even that. So it was a busy, busy time. And the Lord just saw fit because it was his timing.
Right.
And because his hand was in it. I look back now, sometimes I think, how did we ever? We met every week.
Every Wednesday night. We would go to choir.
Yeah.
And then go to your house.
And then come to my house. Like 9:00 every Wednesday night usually.
Yeah.
And we worked for a long time. We worked together. And it was a super busy time. But I know that the Lord, I know now that the Lord was preparing me for a season further down the road where I knew that I could continue to do that and do that for his glory.
As you look back and think about all those years, you go, are you okay, Angela?
I'm good. Sorry. Just dying in the corner.
When you think back about those years of because there are people that go, I don't have time.
Right.
Like, I'm super creative. I want to make things. I want to have an Etsy shop. I want to do all this stuff. But when you think about if people said to you, Robyn, they listened to this entire episode and they're like, I want to, but I don't have time. What do you say to that? No, but you really do have time?
You just have to be intentional. That's kind of sounds like an oxymoron. But you really do. You have to be intentional and you have to just do what you can do at that moment.
Yeah.
And we've said this before. I could have never done it if I had been alone.
Right.
If it had just been me, I would have drowned, sunk at the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
And I would have just given up and said, I can't. Now, all that to say, maybe you don't have anybody, but you can still seek out those people.
That was going to be my question, because I know we have some listeners, because we hear from them regularly who say, I need people, I'm lonely. How do I connect with somebody? What what advice do you have? Because before y'all had each other, I'm guessing y'all didn't have anything quite like this.
The only crafts I did before that were like projects with my kids, and school projects.
And the three of y'all are so distinctly different, but together it's just beautiful and perfect.
It really is. And I don't think any of us really saw that until
later,
very many years into it, because that's been 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just, you need people around you that are going to be positive, that are going to be encouraging.
Right.
And y'all found that in the local church, which is beautiful.
We did.
So getting involved in women's studies and choir. And
yes. If you don't have people, at your work. I mean, there's people you work with every day that you may not even realize. And it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that can do the crafts,
right? But
someone that can encourage you or come along beside you and do the legwork.
Right.
That was one beautiful thing about us, was that, my mind, I created it. I came up with it. Fran did all of the business, technical, behind all of that. I mean, she just brought that out beautifully. And Christy was the hands and feet on the ground.
She is the hardest working servant person I know.
Yes, she was. And so, of course, and it wasn't always easy. I mean, there were many days when we wanted to just, or one of us, and we would just have to redirect and remind each other of what our purpose was, and that we could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, and reflect and look back at what he did those first 2 years, which was unbelievable.
Right. We were making a bunch of junk and people were buying it.
I look back at that stuff now and I think they did.
But here the bottom
I think
line.
I have 18 door hangers.
They were in your car, in your office.
I didn't even hang them up. I just wanted to be supportive.
But
So
that's
sweet.
the thing, is just that when you know your giftings, for you, everybody, maybe that's where you kind of start like, I don't know, Lord, where am I gifted? But those giftings are going to kind of surface. They're going to be exposed when you're working within the body well, because I guarantee you people are calling it out in you and they see something in you. And so you're just like, what am I supposed to do with this? The Lord saw fit to pull us together so that your giftings could be cultivated. Mine could be cultivated. Christy's could be cultivated. And so it's just this beautiful thing. It's like you just want to say, here's fertile soil, Lord, do with it as you please.
And the sweet part of that is, through all of that, he's grown me a little bit in the technology part. I'm doing things that I didn't want to do then. You're doing things you didn't want to do. Christy, we all are kind of stepped into another uncomfortable zone.
Right.
That
it's a process
that he has. Now, I would say though, I think we get caught up, and y'all know this, we get so caught up in the comparison. And I think, you do need to seek out people that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Their walk is going to look different than yours. They may have been doing it a lot longer than you have, but don't be afraid to reach out and just say, or even if you're not somebody you're reaching out to, but there's a girl that I follow online that kind of really spurred me on when all of this started with Robyn's Nest. And she is just a wonderful Christian person but worked hard.
But you weren't threatened by her.
No. I was drawn to her.
That's right.
I was drawn to her. And but it's very easy to look at that and say, I'll never be able to do that.
That's right.
And no, you won't in 6 months.
Right.
But, you just, that's another thing, is to seek out those people that you see or I hate to say influencers, but that's what they are. I mean, they are. And don't be afraid to ask. And don't be afraid to just pull people in that you trust and that are going to not only push you, but rein you back in too.
Right.
When you're just willy-nilly all out here.
Right.
And don't be afraid of that, because that's what you need. You need people who are going to challenge you. And have confidence in in you when you don't have confidence.
Right.
And that's so important, because when I look at you, I immediately think she's a creative, she's a visionary. But we don't need to just assume that people see themselves the way we see them. We need to call those things out to encourage, because you may be having a hard day and need to hear that affirmation.
Right.
we need to start
Right.
calling it out more, I think.
And everybody's not going to have a story like we have either.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to look that way, but the Lord puts those desires.
Mm-hmm.
I can just remember that feeling when we did that. I just wanted to explode because I just felt like I was so in his will. We were. I mean,
when you fast forward to Whimsy, I can't wait to talk about the doll in a minute. But when you look at where you started and then where it is,
right, and that was his purpose.
It's incredible.
I mean, he started us as more than a mission trip and doing that. But if you look at it 10 years down the road, what it is now, it's totally different. But we had to be obedient. That was one of our 3 words when we started. We had to be obedient to what he was calling us at the time.
Yeah. And not be afraid of the process that the Lord takes us through because, and we're going to get to Robyn's Nest. You mentioned that because that's where you are personally right now. Yes, the Heart of Whimsy is finding her way back into ministry, and we're thankful for that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But the fact that you're in this new season with the Robyn's Nest, and we're going to talk about that, it's been a 10-year journey. And if we're not careful, like you can go, oh, well, and I think nowadays, young people especially, they instantly want to be an influencer or they instantly want to be an entrepreneur and they want to start all these things. That's fantastic. I want you to do that. But the process that you're talking about is an intense journey with the Lord. And because of people and because of just you knowing your gifting, you hung in there and didn't quit. And that's where I'm just like, people, it is a lifelong journey because that's gifts in you that he wants to develop. Okay, so here we are at the Robyn's Nest.
Well, hold on.
Yeah. Okay,
because some people listening don't know about the Whimsy doll, and we can't just blow past Whimsy.
Well, Robyn made Whimsy.
Robyn created this doll.
Okay, I can cap it up I can
do it.
Okay, so we had more than a mission trip. I was very particular about the way things were made.
Shocker.
Imagine.
Christy and Fran were not particular about the way things were made.
We were just trying our absolute best, okay?
But I learned to be accepting of things that weren't exactly the way I thought they should be too. But anyway, made something one time. They were showing it to a friend. It was all crooked, and
it was
a
note card.
It was a note card, a beautiful note card. Those note cards, oh my lordy!
We need to do a whole episode.
We need to make some note cards again. Christy will say
no.
But let me say this too. It's hard not to talk about more than a mission trip and Whimsy when I talk about where I'm at.
Right. It's part of the journey. I get emotional
because I would not be what I am and even an inkling of the thought that I could do this if that had not been put in my life.
That's right.
But I had to be obedient to that first.
It's stepping stones.
It is. It's baby steps. We say that
all the time.
So we called that whimsical when it was all messed up.
Instead of ugly, it was
whimsical.
Instead
of ugly or reject, we just called it whimsical. So, and Fran literally was born one day. She was driving down the bypass and the Lord just gave her a vision of a doll. And our hearts had always just been really tender to girls and girls ministry and just girls knowing what they're worth and their value was. And so we wanted to make a doll. Fran wanted to make a doll in a book. The Lord gave that to her, dropped it out of the sky on the 45 bypass.
It's one thing to see a picture in your brain of a doll in a book. It's another thing to hold a doll in a book that somebody's actually created.
Well, that's the thing is that you're aware of your desires or you're aware of your gifts, but to actually take action upon that is like the biggest step in all of the stepping stones.
And so that was probably a 2 to 3 year journey in itself.
That took a minute.
just the process of creating and finding someone to make them and all that. So then it became that. And we took her on the mission trip on the mission field for 3 years.
And you were able to employ women in countries that needed wages to help create the dolls.
So there's Whimsy. So then we're doing Whimsy. And so then we are, we go rolling and going.
And COVID comes.
And COVID hits.
And that changed a lot.
That is where my story really, really changed because we just had to stop. I mean, we couldn't travel. We had hundreds of dolls stuck over in a foreign country.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody's life just came to a halt. They're right there, March 2020. I mean, everything just came to, and I found myself in what I like to call a restless idle.
Mm-hmm.
I was idle. I was still, because, I furloughed from work for a month.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still restless with that. And that's where the Lord began, because I'd always, and sometimes I think this is selfish, I'd always in the back of my mind, as we were doing More Than a Mission and Whimsy, I knew that's where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing at that time. But there was always just that little bit of fire or spark or wonder that, God, I would just love to do this just for me. And it seems so unrealistic to think you could do that as a job. But anyway, so it was always there. And so when we settled and when I became still with COVID and we couldn't travel, and Whimsy really just came kind of just to a halt. And so I remember, and so the Lord just kept stirring in me this feeling of, you can still do more. And it doesn't have to all be about you, but just to encourage other women. And so that's kind of where the Robyn's Nest was born.
Hence the name Robyn.
Yeah, Robyn with a Y.
It's perfect.
And, all my life, Rockin' Robyn and all that. But it's funny, I say the nest because if you think about a bird's nest, if you've ever really looked at one, it is all kinds of a manner of things that come together to make that nest. I mean, it is weeds, it is leaves, it is yarn, it is trash out of the yard. And it's kind of it's kind of how I work.
It's how you make your art.
I mean, I'm not a neat creator.
Yes.
I don't know
many
any
creators
artist.
probably aren't. So
Right.
I'm not a neat creator. So I just thought that was fun to, so it just kind of all worked together. And so we threw the 731 on there just because there are other things that are Robyn's Nest.
But 731 is our area code.
731 is our area code, just to kind of give it its own little personal. And basically, I decided that I was just going to just follow,
what you'd already been doing.
what I'd already been doing, but I could no longer do it
Right.
for that purpose.
Right.
But to be able to do it, number one, I was at a point in my life where my children were, my youngest daughter had just graduated from high school, was in her first year of college. My oldest daughter was about to be done with college. So we were at a place where I had a lot of idle time. We weren't traveling with Whimsy. And so I just thought, I'm going to do it. Here
it's
we go.
a new season.
It was a new season.
So what is the Robyn's Nest?
Okay, so God, it's kind of so basically, I started just a little Facebook page, and I have a little Instagram, and I, in my own time, it's a lot of things. I mean, I encourage women. I want to, there's scripture on there. You're gonna find Jesus on there. You're gonna find thrift trips and
bargains, cute
sweaters
sweaters from Walmart for like $4.
Cute sweaters from Walmart. I love thrifting. I love finding a good deal. So that's on there. And then there's items that I will make to sell. There's not always something for sale, but there are things.
Give us some examples for people like me that are not crafty that need to buy them from somewhere.
Okay, so the first year, the first thing I did was for Easter. And I did those cute little wooden eggs with the, have a cricket. Y'all probably don't know.
I don't even know what that is. A bug?
It makes letters.
Okay.
Vinyl. So I made cute little wooden eggs with words on them. Some of them were faith-based, but then some of them were also just Easter-based. The bunnies were I made these adorable, I thought they were adorable.
They were adorable.
Fabric. I love fabric. Oh my goodness.
She could stand in the fabric aisle at Hobby Lobby for 2 hours trying to make a decision. And I'm like, that one, pick that one.
I'd rather go to Lowe's. I don't know what's happening at Hobby Lobby.
So we made, I think I made over 100 bunnies
they were so cute.
in like a month.
Everything you make is so cute. It makes me think I'm not really a girl. I'm like, what is happening?
Well, and here's another part of that too. So we did bunnies. And then, gosh, what was next? I'd have to go back
I
and
don't
look.
know. I don't remember.
Some
the
wood signs.
Cute
just-
Valentine thing.
And I kind of just did it at my own pace of what I could do, and what I could, and I just kept pushing forward. I just kept. I love details too, and so a lot of the things I do, they're not masterpieces, but I love the tiny details that come together. They matter to me, and I love that. I do have a scripture. Robyn's Nest has a scripture, and that is Matthew 6:26. But just that the birds of the air, they don't sow or reap, nor gather into barns, but the Heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Because He cares about the details.
Yeah.
He cares about every single detail of our lives. And so that just kind of all intertwines together. And so that was in 2021.
Yeah.
20,
look at
well,
us
the
now.
end of 20, started it kind of in 20. No, we started it in 21. Kind of talked about it in 20 and started it in 21. And yeah, so then in 21, my youngest daughter got engaged. She got engaged in 2021.
What year is it
all
right
runs
now?
together.
Nobody
This is
knows what year it
23.
is right now.
She got married in 22, so she got engaged at the end of 21. And so I trucked on along and kept going for a little bit. And then about Easter of 22, I just kind of had to put all of that on hold because I planned, coordinated, executed, DIY'd the most beautiful wedding
in all the world.
It was so pretty. It was just so much fun. And so I kind of had to put the nest had to kind of rest.
Fran is in charge of marketing.
Yes.
With her rhymes.
And so I kind of had to put, and that's hard
Yeah.
because you have this momentum going and you have things, and I'm not a technical savvy person. And so, but social media is a gift to things like this because it reaches people that you would never, ever be able to reach in a storefront.
Right.
The e-commerce part of that.
And there's such a lesson there in not being afraid to pause when you need to pause and do something
I had
else.
to. People would be like, what's going on in this? And I'm like, well,
I'm just doing a wedding. No big deal.
yeah. And so I did. So from like April, May until October, I really didn't do a lot. It just kind of sat, and it was okay.
And the fact that, yes, you're good with the pause there because there's so many lessons in all of this. But the fact that you were good with the pause, but when it's your gift,
you can't kill it.
You will. The Lord's going to keep stirring and keep that, back up to the surface again. And so here we are. The wedding was in October. Here we are, and we're recording this in January. Like the nest is coming alive again.
Right.
And so it's just a beautiful story of the journey, being obedient to the Lord, not giving up on your desires. So let me ask you this. If somebody listening to this is like, okay, I'm all in. I feel all about this. I want to do this. I want to do more than my job. I may be a school teacher or a banker or a this, that, the other, whatever. And they know that they are meant for something more outside. I mean, they're going to have people around them. You've already told us that. The importance of people, recognizing what your gifts are, and then just starting somewhere with the obedience part to whatever it is, and trust the Lord with it.
Exactly.
I mean, good grief. Just, you had no idea, Robyn's Nest. You're just trying to use your gifts. But when we start something new, there are going to be bumps in the road.
Right.
And those bumps can take us out. They will take us out. So when you look back, whether you look back just over the last couple of years or you look back over 10 years, I mean, COVID was a massive bump, but I'm not talking about something like that. What bumps can you say to somebody? Say, be ready. This is a potential bump. This is something that could hinder you. This is something that could cause you to want to stop. Because it's hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think first thing is you just start. There are going to be bumps. There are going to be the whole comparison game. You cannot get caught up in that. You have to. The way you think it's going to go is going to go the opposite way.
Right.
And, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
It's hard to not look, especially when you're doing it on a social media platform. It's hard to not look at numbers. We had this conversation just last week, and you will get overwhelmed. And I was going to speak to that, just that when I got started back up in January, we had a good plan,
Right.
but I recognized that there were things that I just needed help with.
Right.
And so, Fran came alongside and said, we can do this, and we're going to, but just the baby steps and just one day at a time, focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
Because you can't control it all.
Right.
So just really, when it becomes overwhelming, and time, that's going to be your biggest, or it was my biggest obstacle, I would say.
Right.
The fear's there. The fear of failing is always something that's going to keep you, but there's also the fear of success.
Right.
That can make you stop too.
Right. What if?
Because I can't do that, or there's no way I could have that part, or I don't know how to do that in business, or I don't, we're not called to worry about that.
Right.
We're called to be obedient to the moment and to what he's calling you to do today.
That is so good.
And so but it's hard because we all want immediate success.
Right.
I mean, some days I put a post up and nobody looks at it.
Right.
And that's okay. And here, another thing I thought about this today when I was thinking is my niche, I guess that's the way, niche, whatever. It's not everybody's.
That's right.
I make these cute things, and you're a fabulous person, and you are one of my dearest friends. You buy everything, but I'm just saying.
But I don't have the appreciation for it.
It may not be what you love. You may be more into cooking.
It doesn't mean I don't love you and you don't have worth and value. And that is such a solid point.
And it's so hard to not internalize that. So just constantly, just taking a step back and just doing what you're called to do in that moment, because you're going to get overwhelmed. You're just like, I don't have time to do it. There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. One thing that I'm trying really, really hard to do this year is to plan and to set goals just by the week.
Yeah.
Just by the week.
Baby steps.
This is what I'm doing this week. If I get it done Monday, fine. If I get it done Tuesday, I'm off on Mondays and Tuesdays for my other job. So that's really when I do a lot of the work. And if I don't get it done this week, then I just roll it over to the next week. But that I'm constantly setting goals and just doing one goal at a time.
Right.
This week it may be figuring out how to make a TikTok.
Right.
Or a reel.
Right.
Or figuring out why this sign, I cannot tell you the number of times that I've made something, that I've posted something, went to make it, and it just didn't, I had trouble with it. What was that at Christmas last year? Oh my goodness. I remade, I don't know how many.
Yeah.
But just celebrating those successes and taking a pause after each step that you take and go, you know what? This is awesome. I was obedient and let's just sit right here for a minute.
And I will say in the beginning, the money, I thought, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make money and I'm just going to be able to,
bye-bye nursing.
But the longer I've done it, that's not what he's called me to it for. And I know that now. And so it's fun. And if it brings in a little bit here and there, now some people do it and that is what it's for. That is
and
perfectly
it can become
fine.
that one
And
day.
it might. And you know what? If it does, the Lord will bless it that way. And if it doesn't, find yourself being content in the place that he has you in it.
Right. Well, because the reality is that the Lord has gifts for everybody. Everybody is gifted with something that is to honor him and to advance the kingdom of God. And it's his. It's essentially his. He gives it to us and says, okay, now I want you to steward this and I'm in charge and I'm going to lead and I'm going to guide. But he also understands our humanity is going to get in the way and there are going to be bumps and there's going to be twists and turns and ups and downs and you're not going to get things right. But it will always come back to seeking him and being obedient and not getting too far down the road ahead of him. And just, even if it was a train wreck, he can still reroute you. And he will.
Absolutely.
He will. So, where can people find the Robyn's Nest?
Okay. Robyn's Nest is on Facebook. Robyn's Nest
Just
731.
Search
Robyn's Nest 731. Same thing on Instagram.
ROBYN.
ROBYN. That's right. ROBYNSNEST 731. And today, one of my goals was to open an Etsy store.
Ah!
So I hit the button today. Now, it still needs some tweaking. It has 2 items in it. But the goal this week was to just get it open.
What are the 2 items?
So they're the woodward signs and the wooden eggs. And that's a lot of work too. Just making all those pictures and I need somebody just to do that. Anybody want to do that pro bono?
Yeah.
You need an intern.
Yeah, right. So Etsy is also Robyn's Nest 731 on Etsy. It's evolving. It's
but
not.
That's all of life, Robyn. All you're sitting here telling us is whatever it is making up your life. It's a journey. It's a process. Everything is baby steps. It's just to do what the Lord has asked you to do. And you do that so beautifully. And I think what's so fun and should be maybe the most encouraging is just not being afraid to take the next step. And sometimes too, we've learned what's happened is you take a step, but you may sit still for a really long time, whether it's COVID, something happens in your family, a wedding, whatever, and you may just sit for a little while on that rock. And he's like, okay, just stay right here and I'll get you back going again. And this is what encourages me. It's just what should encourage all of us to just keep going. Whatever it is the Lord has gifted you to do, is asking you to do, just baby steps, keep going.
And if you don't know what that is, ask him. And ask the people around you.
Just ask him and just be obedient to what, that's all he asks us to do. And that goes all the way back to More Than a Mission Trip. And that's where he prepared that and he began that work.
So sweet. Looking
just
backwards.
Step out and do it. So 2023, here we come.
Robyn's Nest.
Rockin' Robyn.
Rockin' Robyn.
No, seriously though, at the end of the day, I want to glorify him and I want to turn others to him. And I want them, to have fun and see the fun things, but just to be encouraged that
let it be about
he loves
Jesus.
you and he wants you to do great things.
Yeah.
You're doing it well. We're so proud of you.
Thank y'all for having me.
It's so fun. Okay, I cannot wait to hear back what people think and how they feel encouraged and how they feel challenged.
Absolutely. Shoot me a message.
Absolutely.
Shoot me questions, anything. Just send me a message on there. I mean, I'd love to.
Even questions such as, what kind of scissors do I need to buy?
Or Hobby Lobby or Lowe's.
Like literally, if you are just starting out and you're not sure, Robyn, not that I'm telling you what to do, but just like a basic purchase list.
Yeah.
This is what you need.
I remember those heavy silver scissors that were like fabric scissors, and I tried to cut wrapping paper with them one time, and my mother almost tore my head off.
You don't
Apparently
use the
you don't
fabric
do that.
Scissors on anything but fabric.
I learned that the hard way.
This is so fun, everybody. Thank you, Robyn. I love you so much.
Love y'all.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Rambling Through Everyday Life. We'll see you next time. Y'all have a great day.